Well, hello. This is My name's Craig Kessinger with Tetractys Institute, and as spoken before, we want to discuss a little something about cycles. And this has been one of the big questions, particularly involving like the Mayan cosmology. That's was such a big thing here. I think there were a lot of misconceptions about what that Mayan thing was. I mean, from a native side, possibly. And although the research that was done by a lot of people um, was kind of more of a fear thing, I think we've gotten through that. So if we can say that everything's been kind of put on a little bit of a similar page, we can move on from there. The big thing with cycles is that even from a scriptural perspective, stars and planets, the motion of the heavens themselves have always been uh, put in place, let's say, um, by some kind of divine design, if we allow our minds to go there, and to say that there is predictability to some things. Uh, that is what would be defined more by destiny, something that is rooted and written out, like an equation, a calculation. Fate is our choices, is filling in all these spaces, these variables that exist, and within that equation. And so we have the ability, we have to follow a particular course in certain experiences, let's say, again, to allow a level of reincarnation, particularly because those type of cycles are very important to individuals as well as collective type humanities that we stem from. The soul is more human than the body, and because of that, there are different levels of physicality. So the cycles that we have a tendency to uh, follow, and at the same time we scribe them, we write them out. We are the masters of time. Space can exist all it wants to, and unless it's actually being viewed, you have no level of time, because time is the perception of what occurs in space. The experiences that we move about through. We go to our jobs, we have families, we go to school, blah 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 blah. These experiences exist in a time frame that is created by us. And so these cycles, again, are also semi-created by us, because we are following and writing experiences, time, destinies, and making choices within all that. So if we look at the Mayan thing, I think one of the things that has to be said most of all is that the series of cycles that are involved in that, and there's several calendars that exist within the Aztec Mayan stone. It's not just a single calendar with 4 ages to it, bringing one into the fifth. One has to consider too that once one entered the fifth age, the calendar would have to change, probably in its shape and in how it was being monitored for the most part, and maintained by certain scribal priests, or the Shalom Balam priests in the Maya. Um, One quick note: when history records that so many of these priests, temples were ransacked, priests were killed, the maintenance of the Mayan calendar ceased, and so it's what you can draw from it, calculate from it. It doesn't function anymore, because the priests were capable of monitoring some of the cycles within it and made shifts this way or that way because of astral celestial movement. Um, Things go retrograde. So when that was first explored by a little bit by myself and some other researchers, it began to evolve close to the end as we reached the date that we possibly had already gone by the date. And because of regressive monitoring in the calendar, that ceased somewhere in the 1300s when all the priests were gone. So these type of cycles and things like that still continue. Mankind has a tendency to want to monitor them. We build calendars, we refashion all kinds of things to monitor time. Um, that the Maya were somewhat masters of in writing out what certain cycles could bring energetically, consciously. When we talk about things collapsing, a calendar ending, no, it didn't end, it merely rolled over like an odometer in your car, registering miles as you travel. We are traveling through time, we are writing out time, we are experiencing our own scribal writings into time, if you want to call that karma or whatever. Such that our past is writing a future that we will experience later on in some present motive. And thus the constant exuding level of now. So all these experiences and these cycles reach a certain point of where they don't collapse, they don't collide, they converge. But when they converge, there's a great level of resistance. So like a wheel inside of a wheel inside of a wheel, the way that things have been described in so many things, it either paints a picture of top-down viewing of like planets, because the planets are always wheels and wheels inside of wheels, and we have somewhat a more Kabbalic view of what the visions of Enoch and Elijah and some of the others were like from a Kabbalic perspective. Not a literal one. It's very metaphysical. So when we take a look at these cycles, one of the things I just want to close with here, and some of this we'll get into a little bit later, is the Venus cycle, the Venus transit that was present, and we're talking about December 20th through the 23rd of 2007, not 2012, because in 2007 we had 5 astral bodies within our solar system aligned, whereas in 2012 there were no physical astral alignments amongst the planets facing in any direction that could be towards the galactic center. In 2007, though, we'll take a look at that too, that was very different. Regardless of the dating, that's not so important. What is important, more so, is trying to understand how these cycles register. In other words, how they vibrate and how they echo in time and history with humanity and other dimensional levels of existence. Histories that we're not going to say are alien or anything of that sort, but are very different in what we view, because one of the things I say about that is the human eye is only capable of seeing certain things in the way that it registers light and the way that that reflects to color and our experiences and such. Change the way that the eye could register, or use some other kind of device and some other kind of physical form that is capable of that, and our surroundings change. Instead of seeing trees and stuff like that, we would see something very different or experience it very differently. We look at Mars and we see a dead planet. Some other register of dimensional viewing, it could be a very lush world. And we are experiencing all within the same space. It's just that what we are capable of perceiving predicts a lot of what our experiences are going to be like. And unless we have an understanding of what is capable in those realms, we are not really grasping who we are, what we are, where we are, why we are doing what we are doing. And so some of these cycles we want to discuss from that perspective. So we're going to get into this a little bit. Hopefully you stay tuned. This is just kind of an opening thing, give you an idea where we're going here. I appreciate your time. And thank you for viewing this. Comments are always welcome. Thanks a lot. That's Craig from Tetractys Metaphysical Institute. Thanks.